All right, hey guys, I just wanted to give you a chance to check your answers here. If there was anything you were confused about, if there was anything you weren't totally sure on, here's kind of a good answer key. Here's what your answers should look like. Here's what your notes should look like for the French and Indian War. So our causes, okay? Your first cause should be something about the war is going to get started because they both want that Ohio River Valley, right? It's that land that's kind of in between the two of them. They both say they own it. That's why they're going to start fighting to figure out who actually owns this, because neither one of them will compromise. And the war, of course, is going to be England and America on one side against France and the Indians or Native Americans on the other. The French and Indian War is called that because that's who we fought against. We named it after the people we fought, not about the people involved. It's not a war between France and the Indians, even though it sounds like that. So for our battles, what do you need to know? So the Battle of Quebec was the most important battle from this war. It's going to be the last major battle of the war. Once they had control of Quebec, they had control of the biggest city the French had in America, and the French are going to surrender, right? They're going to be like, okay, cool, looks like England's got this. George Washington is an important person to know about here because he's actually fighting in the British Army. George Washington is at this point. He's going to be involved in the first battle of the war. He's also gaining some really good experience during this time, right? So he's going to be an important person in the war because he was involved in the first battle. The results of the war, what's going to happen afterwards. So after the war, England has won, right? England and America are the ones that won. But the king is now in a lot of debt because the war was super, super, super expensive. England's got no money left. So he's got to figure out how to get that money back. And of course, we know, because we already talked about, he's going to look to the colonists to get that money, right? One problem they're going to start having is the Native Americans and the colonists are still fighting even after the war ends because the colonists are trying to move into that land. The king is like, all right, if you guys are going to act like little kids and you can't get along, I'm going to treat you like little kids. He draws a line and says, neither one of you cross it. Don't bother the other one. Just stay separate. So that proclamation line of 1763 tells the colonists that they can't go west. They can't go across the mountains into the Indians, Native Americans' land. So that leaves the colonists after the war feeling really angry. They're upset because they wanted to get into that land. That's what this whole war was for in the first place. They're like, what was even the point? Why'd we even fight? Why are we even doing all this if we don't get to move in there? They're also upset because the British troops aren't leaving. The king is leaving the troops there because he's going to use them to start collecting his taxes very soon. He wants to make sure Americans are paying and doing everything they're supposed to do. That's going to tick the Americans off because they're like, get out of here. We don't want you living here anymore. We don't want you living in our houses and stuff like that. That's where the king is going to start making them live, right? So here's a little bit what your notes should look like. If your notes didn't look anything like this, go ahead and change them if you need to. Make sure they look something like this. They don't have to be word for word the same, but make sure the general information is the same before you turn in a picture of your notes.